Got it. Got it. We are live.
But grain hasn't started yet.
Yes, but the recording has started. So yes.
There we go. See?
Yes. Let the
Now,
brain.
now.
Okay. Hello everyone. Hello Syl. Hello Brain. Hello
Hello,
Norma. I'm
Beena.
saying hello
Hello,
in advance.
Beena.
I know that you'll be there. Yes, please say that. Like, I always just take the opportunity from you to not to respond to my hello. Sorry.
It's important for me to respond back. I
Exactly.
have to.
Exactly.
I
I
have
was
to.
I was I was not being considerate. I was like, oh yeah, no, yes,
Greetings are absolutely, crucially, wonderfully magical things. Right? Very important. Greetings, both,
yeah,
both times.
this is important. And why they are important. I have heard this many times from you that okay, yes, greetings are so crucial. Greetings are so important. Of course, like some psychology, like popular psychology tips and tricks, we learn that okay, oh, the first 30 seconds you introduce yourself. Okay, the way you enter in a room, you actually tell people who you are. So it has to be like okay, body language and pay attention to. But in Way-of-Impeccability, I learned that it's not only about just presenting itself. No, it is actually a very spiritual thing because the moment, uh, okay, if any practitioner of Way-of-Impeccability, they do greet someone, they don't set the tone of the interaction with them, but like by just focusing on themselves. No, not at all. They don't think about that. At least this is what I understand from. It's all about that how that person feel. They need to feel welcome. They need
Yeah.
to understand that this space is open and free, and they can share what they really want to. They don't need any filters here. They don't need, and there is no pressure also. If they don't want to share, they cannot share. No problem. They need to share. But whatever is available here is the freedom to be, all caps, be yourself, whoever you want to be in these moments. This is the key, and that's why these greetings are so crucial and important. I was assuming in the beginning that it is because that okay, oh, I'm going to set the tone for myself. No, it's not about me. It's about the interaction. It's about the space. It is actually giving a due respect to the space we are creating for each other.
Yes. And opening it up even more, setting the right tone and mood and energy. Yeah.
When we are, even though sometimes I have seen that and I have experienced that, sometimes people are coming from a completely um, not so happy situation and they want to share things. And they are coming from like, okay, sometimes they need catharsis, sometimes they just need a burst out, sometimes they just want to just talk and talk and talk. And okay, and sometimes they just need a tap on their shoulder and just listening, okay? Or maybe just they just want to hear, but they are not coming from a positive and cheerful situation. But the moment Syl started greeting them genuinely, then I know that, okay, I have checked this like, I don't know, 1,000 times now, that it's a very genuine greeting he
It
always
can
have.
only
And
be. It can only be. Right.
yes, and this genuine greeting
It's a Moreness
changed
greetings, not just a regular greeting. It's a Moreness greeting. Yes.
changes the thing immediately, not only for them, but for us also.
Yeah.
Because then they realize that the world is not like a disaster completely.
Yeah.
No, there are still some hope. There is some peace here. There is a place here. There is a space where I can just think. And also that emotions get like really transformed. And
Yeah.
then we get from them also a more neutral and real feedback of the situation they were going through
Correct.
before.
Correct.
Oh my god, it's all intense, it's scary, it's all
More
sort of
open, yes,
certain
and a
thinking.
greater range of connectivity. They don't hold things back as much, or if at all. Right? There's that openness and the full honesty of sharing. That's a very big deal.
But I saw that, so in some cases I saw that people coming, really sobbing and crying and is really upset,
yeah,
emotionally tense and upset. You can see that in their on their face and their eyes and their choice of
yeah,
words
yeah, yeah.
and the way they are sharing. But suddenly when you greet them, and then the tone started shifting. And of course it doesn't negate the intensity of the situation, but it what it does affect is their emotional connectivity to that situation.
Oh,
Emotions change, and then they start sharing in more real sense. Still, it can be, of course, really devastating for them. It's not going to change the situation, but it does change. What it does actually, it is disconnect them from the negative emotional intensity. And this is so powerful. That's why greetings are so powerful. It happens yesterday. I was not feeling well, still going through something, and I was tired. And I said, okay, so I'm going now. I'm going to sleep immediately after the live. I was saying, okay, and he was busy, just taking care of something, and he was typing. And I said, okay, so good night, bye for now. And it's a usual thing. And he says, okay, bye for now. And then immediately I got his call, and he says, Beena, I was busy. I didn't say this in a right way for him, in an appropriate way for him. And then he says, okay, good night. And that's it. It was same thing, but it was more focused, of course. And it was, he was focusing on that. And that's why, and he said, "Oh, these are so important to start and end any interaction on a positive, genuinely positive, cheerful note. And that is the key. If we can do this in our life, in any interaction with anyone, our life can transform just by focusing on this thing. And this is my thought of the day. So
wow.
I think I gave you enough time to take care of your things, whatever you
Okay.
are doing.
Well,
And then,
actually, I'm almost done with that, but I was, oh, Norma's here. Hello, Norma. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Oh, wow, wonderful, wonderful. Hello, Norma. Did you see Beena? Norma's here?
no, 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 because I'm not there. I need to go there.
Oh, I'm just saying. So Norma says, yeah. So you can say hello, Norma, if you want.
I'm going there. And of
Oh,
course,
oh.
I first said hello to Norma, even when she was not here, I guess.
Yes, you've been saying hello to Norma. Yes, yes.
Yes,
We like saying hello
yes.
to
Hello,
Norma. It's
Norma,
important.
again, again.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we can get going in one moment. Yeah, I was taking care of messages, so a little slower in all the sharing. The sharing is pretty quickly, but normally I don't take care of messages. But because I got up really late today, I'm very late. I slept almost 12, 13 hours. Well, I didn't sleep all of the 13 hours, but I went to bed 13 hours and got up 13 hours later. I was like, wow, really? Seriously? Yeah. Anyway, I could have slept even more still. Anyway, so
Wow.
yeah.
If this is the case, please do that. I think that, okay, this is most appropriate thing.
No,
Okay,
I
what?
know, but it would have been, it wasn't so crucial and critical. I mean, it's because once I already wake up, then it's going to take me another hour to go to sleep, and then it wouldn't have worked. So it feels like I could have, but it wouldn't have been practical and realistic. Let's put it that way. Uh, but
Okay,
yeah, it was good.
so
So
we were discussing again, coming back to the same thing, that the starting and ending. It is
yeah,
actually like if we just assume that, okay, even in the brief interaction, if we assume and if we just set our intent that we are going to take it as we are writing a book,
yeah,
just in a minute or two, even we are writing a book. How we want to start a book positively, of course, and how we want to end it in a
yeah,
positive. This is general thing, and also in between, we want to be thorough, so people
yes.
can understand that what we were trying to say. That's why. Uh,
Sorry.
no,
Read Norma's
what happened?
comment.
Hey,
She just made it now. It's gonna
okay.
go. You crack me up, Norma. See, when I say lol, I mean lol. You see? I don't know. He just grabs me. It just grabs me. I shall try not to snore on the open. Norma calls the live open, which I love. I love
Yes.
that she calls it the open.
He
Yeah.
did once. He did once, Norma. He
I
did
did?
once.
Really?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, he
Oh,
did.
oh, I don't remember this. Oh, tell me
Yes.
about this. I don't remember.
It was not live. It was just we were discussing, and he fell asleep and he was
Oh,
tired.
oh, okay, all right, yeah. There were times when
So
I was very sleepy and I was like dozing, and I'm listening, and other people were there, right? Yeah,
yes, yes. So
yeah.
it happens.
It
We are
has happened.
human,
It has
and it's
happened.
okay.
Yes, yes.
And it's okay.
All right, let's get. I want to. I have a lot to do because I woke up later, so today going to be a little shorter. So we'll get going right away. All right, I was hoping to get going even more right away than right away, but all right. Well, so we'll get going. So hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. I just told you, yeah, Norma. Again, there's never any expectation, but this is just how I feel is a really ideal and excellent way to set up one's way of doing things that I'm always happy, like Norma. I really love it when you're here, and it's a magical thing every time. But at the same time, I don't expect it, and I'm not disappointed if you're not here. That's hard. That's hard for some people to. But how can that be? If you really like it, don't you really want it? No, not necessarily. It's very hard to comprehend that we can separate those two. Yes, to say I don't have an expectation. I don't have to have it. I'm happy if it's not there, but I'm happier if it is there because we unhook from this mentality of opposites, right? In other words, if I have something and I'm happy, by default, you sort of assume that if you don't have it, you must be unhappy. That's mentality of opposites. It's either or, black white, but it ignores the color. So the color in this case is to say I'm happy if it's not there. I'm happy if I don't have it. Like right now, I'm happy I don't have steak that I'm going to eat today, or whatever. I don't know. Norma's a vegan, so maybe, all right, I don't have cake. Yeah. But if I have cake, I'm a little bit happier. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be unhappy when I don't have cake. See? So we have to really understand this and really make it something that change our default psychology to switch from a good and a bad system with maybe as a neutral, right? But you're either good or bad. That's typically how it is for most people, right? Opposites. To going to a good, better, best system or good, better, moreness system. I don't even want best because best puts a cap on it, right? There's no. It's. I have moreness and then I got even more moreness and then I got more moreness on top of that. Whole different system, right? Which means I'm always happy. And a lot of people ask me, how can you be so positive? Well, this is one reason why. Very simple reason. But yeah, yeah. Uh, yes, yes, yes. No, no, no. You call it the open, Norma. No, sorry. I love that you call it the open. It is an open. It's an open shared via a Facebook Live, right? But yes, it's open to everybody. So it's a great name. Yeah. I'm a lot better now. I've been very ill. Oh dear, Norma. Oh dear. Oh, I'm pleased to hear that you're better. I'm really pleased to hear that you're better. Yeah, that's good to know, Beena. Norma. That's very good to know. That's very good to know. Good, 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 good. All right. On this, let's get going. Let's get going. Yeah, yeah. You are very precious to us, Norma. So you've got to be good. You've got to be good. Right. So now we going over this, and we're at the part where Biella and Illumina are explaining why the messaging and the connection with Boynal is this big mystery, right? And they mentioned, well, there's a few things like his vocabulary usage and the way he's talking and that. All right, but that can still be sort of more or less explained. But the actual main core thing is that message at the end, right? He says, then there's that message at the end, and if you remember the message at the end, sent from mobile to sticker or emoticon, right? And it only came the one time. So then there's that message at the end. Yes, Biella agreed. That message makes all the difference. No matter how we could possibly interpret everything else, the end message makes a huge difference. It was sent by the system, not by Boynal. I double checked. It's a protocol no longer in use. If a reenactor, for instance, were to use a mobile, which is a bulky external portable com from the from the future, right? This is how they would see it because, well, at least on Nobelia, they use an implant, right? They don't use a physical phone. So when they want to connect to the com, well, at home here now, she's got the physical com, a bigger unit because this is set up so that it can be for exactly this type of situation where there's something a group discussion and somebody wants to join, right? So it's like like having Zoom when you put Zoom up on a big screen because you'll have a big screen there, and then the person on Zoom can see everybody else, and everybody else like a conference Zoom, but just one, right? And your conference with one, same kind of thing. But anyway, for the most part, she'll just trigger her com internally inside, and she can have both visual and audio because it goes directly and you see it. Okay, so the technology is there to do this already, by the way. Just it's being done with certain handicapped patients. But the public isn't quite ready for implants yet. Too many conspiracy, paranoia, nonsense things going on. But of course, this is not an issue in on Nobelia and well in the ag in general. Um, but certainly on Nobelia the implants are the default, right? I mean, there may be people who don't have it, like for medical reasons or whatever, but other than that, it's the default. And you activate it in different ways, like you can use your tongue or finger, hand movement, wiggle your ear. I don't know, there's all sorts of different ways to initiate it, right? Blinking, I don't know, there's many different ways that you can start this. Uh, but certainly and they don't use it very much either. It's not like our society now, it's almost impossible to do without comms, right? But I remember a time where there wasn't even the phone, right? Yes, we had a phone, but it wasn't like when as kids, you didn't have use of the phone. Sorry, that was just this was for the adults and parents only. You wanted to talk to your friends, you had to go to their house and whatever, right? So it's not so at least understanding this from the culture point of view, it's an oral culture. They do this willingly. Why? Because they know once you start making those allowances, it's a slippery slope to where you become like the society now where everything is through the phone, right? Or through the yeah, through the internet, and you lose that direct connectivity. You lose community. You have different communities. You have online communities, which is great, yes, but you also lose that direct interactivity, and and you tend to have more connectivities but shorter, right? So you never really quite get into those in-depth type of discussions. Whereas if you go and visit somebody and it's you and a few people there now, and you're staying there for a couple of days, right? And the only reason you're there is because you want to get into in-depth discussions and moreness and hang out, right? Changes the dynamic of the culture. Yes, it's a vastly different culture to just hello, how are you? Yes, okay, and you're just talking about trivial stuff all the time because you don't have the time to talk longer. Yeah, see, gets diluted. I mean, who today has time for the type of conversations that we have here on the live? Yeah? Now, of course, they also have it set up where, it's not their economy is one which is allowance for having greater time, right? I mean, it's not like a work economy. People, they do work, but they do it as a joy, as a pleasure, right? Not because they needed to do it for the money, right? And so this is a big shift in the culture. And part of the whole, well, at least in the Council of the Gods, that whole logic there is to get to a point in time where we can have that type of a society. We can do it now already. There just has to be the will to do it. That's all. And it's just purely political reasons and people's perceptions and ideas and understandings. The feasibility from a technological point of view has long since been there. Yeah, I mean since the 70s and the 80s pretty much already, but especially nowadays. Yeah. So and it'll come. It has to come. There's no way it can't come. So this is important that you've got a society where the bulk of your day is not spent making a living. This is taken care of via automation and robots. The robots work on your behalf. They work for you, right? So everybody's aggregated instead of like saying, well, like, okay, you get an investment up like a house, like you buy a house and you rent it. Yeah. You could have a society, and there are potentially some out there where you can do the same with robots, right? You build up your capital and you buy a robot and you send the robot to the factory and it works on your behalf. Okay, wonderful. Or it goes and is a laborer in the fields, or yeah, and you get paid, right? It's like you're owning a robot the way you would own a house, and you get. But the government just, at least in this case, the new nobility said, this is going to again lead to uh, uneven distribution of income. So now is it yes, it's like property. This is great. Theoretically, everybody can own property and rent it, right? And then, you can, but it leads to this. If you've got capital, you got an advantage. And so we want to do away with this, yes. And we don't want to take away individual effort, right? Because that's also has problems, like with communism, that when you made this, you reduced the motivation to make individual effort, and then you just had lowest common denominator in terms of productivity. Also, anytime communism was implemented, it wasn't actually implemented according to the ideal. It was implemented as a dictatorship, which is a very different thing. That's just as a political motive of exploitation. So, all right. So let's just make sure that we understand this, right? But still, when people do have situations that are trying to do this, doesn't work, right? Because you're taking away individual motivation. So you have to keep that as well. But at least on the average, there's no reason why, as a society, as a culture, we can't have machinery and stuff. So basically, you as a citizen, yeah, your job is to be happy. Your job is to progress whatever joy you want to be. Your job is to consume. This is your job. Your job is to be a fan. Your job is to follow your passions. This is your job as a citizen, right? And how is all this paid for? You say who's doing the work? Well, of course the robots are, but somebody got to be supervising the robots at some point. Yes. So where the humans are still needed, you go as uh, like a national service, right? You go, you put your time in, and that's it. Or you get every now and then, we need somebody like on Nobelia, right? They need people for admin duty. Now, admin duty is not like where you do your national service like basically before you become a new noble. At some point during being an aspirant, part of being an aspirant is you spend a year or two or however long the time is that's needed. You take the amount of work and you divide it by a number of people, and that's it, right? You go and you work in the factories and all this because you also learn the system, right? And it's important that people know how the system works so that if there's a breakdown, people can fix it, that you don't always just rely on the computers, right? So so part of this is national service, but then also like on admin duty, right? And like now with Biella, this is a job that she's doing, showing the delegates around, right? I mean, technically she's paid for this, or it's part of her contribution to the overall thing, right? I mean, she isn't actually going to get extra money out of this because she's already getting, it's just a part of her duties as being a member of the new nobility, right? Which is also a member of the corporation. So it's like, well, you get asked. For the most part, you don't get asked to do anything, but when you do, you do it. It's as simple as that, right? And it's very, very wonderful system, right? And like on admin duty, at some point we'll have Biella be on admin duty, yeah, in the story where she's just basically sitting around doing nothing, just manning the office. Okay, she reads a book or whatever, listens to music, or catches up on her writing or something. I don't know, she's sitting in the office doing filling time, and then maybe somebody comes and we give some examples of what it would involve, or some crisis happens and she's got to take care of it. I don't know, just to illustrate how she's serving the community by basically doing her national service, the equivalent of national service. Now, when we think of national service, you think of it from a military point of view. Yes, like when I was a young man, I did 2 years of military national service, but uh, but yeah, now they do use money, Norma. Um, And this is a good example to go into this, right? I mean, for the most part, there isn't a need for money in a technical sense. But why make money? Because it allows for a mechanism that allows for just measurement and allows for a more easily appropriate way of dealing with things. Because yes, from a governmental point of view, a societal point of view, the government takes care of pretty much anything. Like if you go to a typical supermarket, right? This is all available to you, right? You get paid a basic income and you go and shop with it. Now, why is money important? Because it's still not unlimited. You have more than you need in your basic income uh, to take care of. You're not living. I mean, it's called basic income, but the basic is very high, right? I mean, it's more than just okay. You can afford a little small place, and you can basically get by with a minimum. No, you living basically the basic income is like you middle class, right? Now, for most people, a middle class existence is more than enough, right? You've got enough for your needs. You've got enough for medical. Well, medical is kind of, national. It's like in Canada, it's not nationalized, right? But so you don't have to worry about medical, and you've got enough for your needs, more than enough. But you've also got enough for just discretionary spending, right? Which is very important. That you can go to the movies, go to the theater, can buy things, luxury items, whatever, right? So you've got more than what you need for your needs, right? However, there's not a limit on. I mean, there's still a limit on this. So money comes in to say, well, you know what? I like really want to have a fancy yacht. Okay, this is your dream. Well, your basic income doesn't cover that. Okay, so this allows you to say, well, okay, I want more than this. So what do? I go and be a plumber or whatever. I just use plumber because plumbing is can be sometimes be a very unpleasant, nasty job, and you're not going to get rid of human plumbing. It's still there. I don't know. Maybe in the future somehow they find a way to do it, like on the Enterprise, right? I always joke that one stage they had those one-piece uniforms, and I said, but how do they go to the bathroom? Right? Like this would be very cumbersome and consuming to get out of this whole outfit. It's like, come on, seriously? But then I said, okay. The answer is, well, every time they go through the transporter, and this is mentioned somewhere in the series, the transporter will clear you of bugs and viruses and stuff like that. So that's why they're always so healthy, right? And nobody ever has a cold or gets sick. Well, sometimes, but that's when it's like really unusual, right? Some alien thing. But also, the same time, when you go through the transporter, it clears out anything that's not needed by your system, which includes cleaning out your bowels. So, all right, well, this is wonderful, right? This is a fantastic system of doing with it. No, okay, but they don't have transporter technology yet in the in the ag and on Nobelia. But that would be one solution. But anyway, my point is that that I'm saying about the money. If you want extra, you do those jobs that nobody really wants to do, but does require a human. Right? Otherwise, if you don't want to pay for a plumber, it's very expensive. You just do it yourself, which is great, which is really excellent because now you've got a society that people are have an incentive to develop some kind of competence. Yeah, and again, okay, we'll use examples that people know very well, right? Your computer doesn't work, you get the software infestation, right? All right, and this needs to be fixed, and you need a person to come and solve it. Yeah, so this is something. But if you know how to do it yourself, much better, right? So a society where there's an incentive to do things yourself because it's so ridiculously expensive to pay people to do it. Okay, if you now really don't want to do it or are unable to, okay, that's a different thing, right? Now you could probably get assistance via the governments if you are truly physically unable, and now you need to do stuff, but it's more than your budget allows. Well, you may get the compensation for that. So, all right. So anyway, so the reason for the money, to get back to the point, is it allows for the system where the automation takes care of people, and you pay for it via your national service, so you do some work, but it's leveraged, right? In other words, that when you've got a fully automated system, Right? Everything is automated as much as it possibly can be. You only need a few people to be able to produce all of the goods and services as much as the automation can do that a society needs, right? You only need a few people to work. So this is brilliant. So now instead of you working your whole life long, you only need to work, a couple of years maybe, if that much even. And it's all taken care of. It's just a brilliant system. It's leverage, right? It's leverage. It's a very effective, very efficient system. And also because it's a wealthy system, right? Because you're not just doing basic income, and it's like everybody's middle class more or less. That you don't have population issues. This is something that people don't know and they're not aware of, especially when they're worried about population increases. And they look at the graph of the population and it's increasing, increasing, and it goes up and up and up, and they start panicking. Yes, and they just keep extrapolating. They say, well, in 100 years, our population is going to be, I don't know, a trillion or something, and they really stress about this. But this is not accurate. Why? Because population growth is very much related to wealth. Japan, for many years now, has had negative population growth because it's a very wealthy society. China, who we've all know about the one child policy and population issues, it's been very quiet. They haven't made a much bigger of an issue of it. But that one child policy is, I think it might still be technically in on the books, but it's not being strictly applied because they too have seen their population growth start to plateau, right, and even slightly decline maybe because they've become a wealthier country. We always think of China as this very poor place, low income, why they have cheap wages and all that. But that's no longer the case. China has the largest middle class in the whole world now, right? So we have to understand things change. And likewise, like I said, when you've got wealth and a population isn't generally poor, right, then the population tends to go down, right? It tends to find a median point where it balances the resources and the income and everything. But it's a peculiarity that when there's poverty, you've got a disproportionate increase in population. It's a very peculiar situation. You would think the reverse would be so, right? Well, I'm wealthy, I can afford to have kids, but no. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it. And I don't want to go into that because it's a long side discussion here. And I want to get off the topic of the situation in on Nobelia and in the ag, right? Now, on the ag, it's not quite as fully automated as it is on Nobelia because, like Ursula's planet that comes into it, right? Um, they haven't, it takes a while to get that automation implemented, a couple of decades probably till they fully at the level of the, but even so, the ag is still getting to where it's maximized. Whereas on Nobelia, they started this way. They already had the wealth when they first settled the planet, right? And they bought it, even though nobody owned it. They paid for it by a donation to the agglomeration, right? They didn't have to buy it. They just said, "Well, hey, we're buying it, and we want to own it. So, all right, whoever's available in this galaxy, will pay you for it, right? Because we don't know anybody else to pay." So, so they wanted to have this sovereignty, right? Anyway, so Nobelia, when they started from the get-go, they put in a system that would be automated and make allowance for a great, expansion of population as needed, right? They put in the underground system, the underground factories, and the transport system, all this, right? Which on other worlds has to be done after the fact, which of course takes a lot of time. It's very slow and all this, right? Or relatively. So anyway, but yeah, so the money is important because it allows you to say relative value. Like the money is there to determine what is very luxurious, like the yacht. And okay, you want that, then you get your income, but you can go and do things and get paid more because you're doing stuff that nobody wants to do. Yeah. So then you get paid very well and you make more than your income, which also keeps this interactivity and keeps people doing things, and they don't just they know stuff because to do this you have to learn. Right now, a lot of people don't know it, but in our society now, how many people know how to deal with most of their computer problems? They don't, even though you would think they would because, well, you use the computer every day or the phone. Yeah, but time and energy, right? So it's a wonderful system that really balances out all these issues. That's very cool, very cool. And two, like on Nobelia, a lot of them will do things like, people have restaurants. There's no need for it. You just order your food, and you've got a lot of automated food making as well. But they do it for the joy of it, right? And it's just a fun thing. So it's just extra. But on Nobelia, some of them they don't even charge for it. They just do it for the joy of it, right? It's all right. Why did I get go on this whole about the mobile and the bulky external com to say that they use implants? And in book 3, um, the implant gets all explained a lot more, because book 3 is Biella takes the delegates in the group and gives them an introduction to virtual reality, how the new nobility use virtual reality. And I wrote this before virtual reality was available to the public, right? So it's a kind of a predictive book, and actually still some of that stuff hasn't really come, as far as I know, hasn't come in. It just virtual reality has been very slow to take off. Really, really unfortunate. But anyway, and that there she uses her implant to really good effect in a very powerful way. It's a very useful thing, and she does use it a little bit. Yeah, I think in this book it's mentioned a couple of times, like she turned on the public speakers, right, where she was talking. There was a bigger group, and she used the implant to put the speakers on and cue the internal mic, right? And to go from this. So this is very, very cool that you've got basically an internal mic that, plus you obviously, well, the incoming, uh, like to hear it in your ears, right? You get the signal is picked up by the implant, and it translates it directly into an audio signal or a visual signal. And when you're looking at things, it's like you can do it with those glasses that Google had, and well, Apple also. And now they're starting to bring it back. People, there was marketing killed that product initially, but they started to bring it back. Where you put on the glasses and you can see on the glasses, it's like it virtually appears to you kind of see through. You can see stuff written here, right? And it all depends on where you put your focus on your eyes. So if I put my focus close, if you can see my eyes now, I'm focused on my fingers. The focus is different to when I look at the screen or when I focus far away, you see? So you can see, like if I'm reading something over here in front of me, I'm reading it now, see? So, and then when you shift your focus and it's semi see through, you see right through it, even though it's there. It's very powerful technology and very useful. It's complicated to explain, but very easy to demonstrate. Oh, anyway, so they can use this, and you can put it off up to the side in your vision, right? Where I'm looking at you, and I can check. Okay, here's my list of things, and I can use it as a reference. There's so many wonderful things to do. Now the glasses are somewhat limited, of course, but when you have it directly inside in your brain, right, it projects it like a hologram, but it's your brain is doing it, right, rather than it's being done from via the technology into your brain. It's just a way of using the ocular nerve. Or you don't even have to connect directly to the ocular. You can just connect directly to the brain, to the part that processes that. And it's very possible to do, right? This is not something that I'm saying is sort of science fiction. It's there, it's available, just not being done, right? Anyway. Varifocals, yes, yes, exactly, Norma. It works kind of like that, very similar, yes. Um, but just the way the eye works, especially if you're projecting something that is somewhat transparent in front of your eye. You can do this like with a hologram projector. You can be looking at it, but changing your focus, you can see through it, right? If it's not very solidly projected, right? If it's with some transparency. So it's a very easy thing to have text in front of you, and you can look at the text. It's just a matter of shifting your eye focus, and then you focus far, and you want that. A good example is a fly screen. Yes. So like I got a fly screen next door to me here, and I'm showing stuff like on live. I took my phone and then looked through the window to show stuff, right? And if I'm far away, the fly screen you can sort of see it's a bit fuzzy. But if I go and put the phone right close to it, the fly screen disappears, right? So it all depends on the focus, right? And this is a very good example of how things work. Like a fly screen, you can see quite fine through it, but if you focus on the fly screen, you see the fly screen, right? But generally, when you look through it, it's not a problem. Yeah. So this is the same thing. But now, of course, when it's light, it's even more transparent. Very much easier to see through. Um, this system it's called a heads-up display. They use it for pilots in their helmets, right? That they have the same type of a thing, that they're looking through the windscreen to fly in general, but they get a lot of information on the inside screen of those helmets, right? It's popping up right there. So they can see all the data that they need, their speed and power and all of this stuff, right? All the technical stuff for flying. But they still, when they look through it, they can see the environment around them, right? So this is where well, I'm saying that's why I'm saying the technology is already there, yeah, to do this. Now, all right, that's on a helmet, but you can do the same thing with an implant, right? Very, very easy. All right, well, not very easy, but the technology is there. So anyway, so this point about the mobile now that it's a bulky external com from before we moved to implants, says Biella. Using a mobile from that era today would make no difference. The system would see it as a com like everything else. I checked that also. So she's making a point that this message, it doesn't matter that you're using old technology. It's the same thing when you connect to the computer. You can have to the internet, I mean. You can have a computer that's 20, 30 years old and connect to the internet, right? Now, on my side, I don't know how old your computer is, right? I think Norman, you have an old computer, not your phone, but your computer, right? It makes no difference. It doesn't matter. It's just a mechanism to connect. And it's not going to change the protocols. Like when you type a message, it's not going to change how you type and send the message. I'm going to see the same message regardless of what type of technology machine you typed it on, right? As long as it can connect. That's the key. And a mobile can connect. So the fact that that message was now sent by the system, right? This is very, very, very anomalous, right? The fact that we saw that message raises many, many questions. It could be the system has been infiltrated. This is highly unlikely, as it hasn't happened in decades and not substantially for over a century, right? Like I was explaining, I think it was yesterday, right? Where they made hacking into a sport. And it's a very, very beneficial, the rewards for being able to hack are very substantial. Right? Money's not that much an issue, but you get like the prizes would be access to things that weren't ordinarily access to, right? So very big deal. Oh, I thought you were serious, Norma. I love that Norma has to say that she's joking. Yeah, I love that. I love it. Very funny, Norma. Very funny. Very funny that you say joking. Like, really? I would have taken you seriously? Wow. It winds up with the handle, says Norma, her computer. Brilliant, brilliant, Norma. Brilliant, brilliant. Actually, that may be a futuristic thing where, you have a ability to generate lots of power and you can do it yourself, right? Where you not rely just to keep the power cost down. Like you on your treadmill, for instance, and you charge up your battery. This is quite doable. Quite doable. Anyway, um, right. So I was saying about the hacking, that hacking is very much rewarded and it's a big sport. Yeah. And it's very well rewarded sport because they want to make sure that the com is impregnable. And like I explained to Beena, yes, right. Like here, Biella saying, right, it hasn't happened in decades that it's actually been penetrated. And when it was just like the surface, like basically, you know, you're able to scale the castle wall and you're able to climb halfway up. Yeah. Okay. And then they detect you, right? Have you done any damage? Have you done any harm? No, not at all. You didn't even get inside. Or even maybe you just got inside the gate and then the inside guards, you got past the outside guard, but the inside guards caught you. You still haven't done anything, but you've technically breached the system, right? But that where it's actually been a breach that's caused real effort and damage, or substantial. Maybe somebody just did it, just it didn't really cause harm, but just to show that they could. This hasn't happened for well over a century, right? So they are super highly concerned with security, because in our world today, you can say no matter how much who you think is secure, aren't any systems that have not been substantially breached. That's So you know, wherever you put your stuff, you basically just got to hope that, well, that this particular system doesn't get breached. I mean, like, you know, Bank of America or whoever, you know, government systems, they've all been breached and, you know, stuff stolen, right? It's a it's a big deal. It's a very big deal that we don't have real security, right? And it causes problems for people. Anyway, so this is why this from the get-go they set up a system where the security is very tight. So from the start of the agglomeration, there hasn't been any breach that resulted in actual uh, harm or damage to people, right? There have been breaches, but they weren't able to get far enough to do it, right? But they said, we don't want to stop there. We want to make the system where uh, you don't even get close to the castle. We discover you when you're already in the woods coming towards the castle, right? So this is the sport. The sport is no longer, can we breach the system? How close can we come to breaching the system? That's basically the objective now. Of course, you know, in your fantasies, in your dreams, you would think, well, maybe I can get in somehow, right? I mean, that would be really something special. But it's very important point here, right? It hasn't happened in decades and not substantially for over a century. Many try most dedicatedly, as it's a fierce and earnest sport in many places, taken as seriously as one possibly can. She's making the point that that message that sent from mobile, choose your emoticon or sticker, that was sent by the system on Nobelia or the general com or ag system, right? The system, the internet itself, right? Uh, and not from his phone individually, right? And in order to do this, you would have to hack the system. That's the only way it can be done, right? In some way or other. And this is not really possible. I mean, in all of the impossible, like aspartame can still be explained, right? And like I said, you know, maybe he had a stash of it, or maybe he thought it was in the chewing gum and it wasn't actually, right? So many explanations. But there's no way this could be in any other way, right? Um, then there's the possibility of direct communication. In other words, that he found some way outside of the com to basically send a message, signals directly to your computer. It's kind of hard to imagine, but all right, it's technically kind of possible. Then there's the possibility of direct communication, but also extremely unlikely as it came through the com and is logged, right? So if he'd sent it like okay, I've got Wi-Fi, and maybe he sent a signal that my Wi-Fi antenna picks up and translated it as if it's from the com, but it's logged on the com. See, and so that takes that out, right? There are other com options available. Maybe this must be capital C. Uh, but they all beg the question, why? Right? So again, even if he did do this and send it directly, right, and maybe some kind of a hacking, it still begs the question, why? Right? His conversation seemed earnest and sincere, internally consistent. I have no reason to doubt the conversation content was what it was. Yeah. I mean, when you go through that conversation and you know this is a real conversation, not something dreamt up by the author, right? Well, even if you don't know it was dreamt up by the author, you're going to really connect to it as a really genuine, sincere conversation, right? And that's what it was. Yeah, right. It may be, you know, a very good actor, or whatever, getting into the role. It's possible. Yeah, but still, it still begs the question, why, right? This raises the possibility of the conversation from Boynal being retranslated or hijacked somewhere, but there's the mystery of where he is now, the lack of particulars regarding his whereabouts. So when you put it all together, right? Illuminia said soberly, all of this is why Biella or I did not question or press Boynal directly. Biella filled in more. It's a fine perception, one for which there's no real direct logic, one of those knowings which come only from experience. And she means here that at the time, she felt that Boynal is in a bubble, but a bubble, not in a bubble of like limited awareness bubble, but in a separate reality bubble to some degree or another. And I don't mean separate reality like he's in a multiverse or something like that. No, but in some way that that if you pop this bubble and he sees, oh, that well, yes, you're right, and then the conversation will break down and he'll be awkward, uncomfortable, or whatever. And this happens sometimes, right? Well, let's say for instance, right, like you engage with a client, right, and you're doing a business transaction, right? You the therapist and you got the client, right? And they really in, and then you say, where are you, by the way? And it's, oh, and then the connection disappears. Why? Because they're doing it at work and they're doing it on the work on the company's time, right? And not on their own private time. And they shouldn't be doing this. And they can't say that they're doing it to you because, well, you're talking about stuff like way of impeccability and having integrity and all this, right? So when you popping that bubble forces them to now say something that they don't want to say, so they stop communicating. Yeah, rather than acknowledge that, well, yeah, they were doing it on the company time. You see, that's the kind of situation that Biella became aware of. Now, that's one example, many other examples. One example of where you address something directly, it pops the bubble and the conversation terminates, right? Or goes in a different direction, right? So this was why she didn't press and ask more questions, right? At the time, where did not question Boynal directly about the oddities like the aspartame and the visa and all this, right? Because they felt that this might, or at least Bella felt, because she was in the conversation mostly, felt that this would cause that problem, right? It's a fine perception, one for which there's no real direct logic. One of these knowings which come only from experience. Boynal seems somewhat oblivious as to what is happening in the larger context. Somewhat. I get the clear and distinct feeling, and I'm quite certain so does Illuminier. Illuminier nodded her affirmation. Now, if you're a careful observer, you're saying, "Hey, author, how can Illuminier nod her affirmation before Biella asks the question or mentions what she's asking for affirmation from?" Right? You see, because she says, "And I'm quite certain so does Illuminier," but she hasn't said about what yet, because Illuminier knows what's coming, right? Practicing the art of extrapolation, which is something that the new nobility work on quite assiduously, right? It's a skill that they make every effort to have real excellence at, right? So here comes what Illuminier is affirming, that if we had asked specific questions of Boynal about these peculiarities, it would have caused a particular awareness, one which would have led to cessation of contact. Like I said about, you engaging with somebody and then you ask, hey, where are you? And uh, you don't want to ask that sometimes. Yeah. Well, I'm just using a example. There are many, many variations of this conversation with Boynal, the same thing. I said, "What do you mean you need a visa?" And then he's like, "Oh, but hang on, you're in on Nobelia, and I'm here, and how does this work?" And he might then be confused and freaked out, yeah, because he doesn't understand this, right? And then he's like, this is like blows his mind, and end of contact, right? So there are a lot of reasons why they don't do this. It's very important, very necessary. All this is most difficult to explain as it's a feeling, a sense, but we have participated in enough mysteries and have caused this to happen too many times to now be confident we recognize this unusual fragility of interaction, right? So they've experienced it where they did say the thing they did ask and it led to sensation. So through backward engineering, as it were, paying attention to the pattern, you can sort of see, and they do this as part of their deliberate skills to look at pattern and to look at it backwards in time, so that you can recognize it even though you're not 100% sure, right? Because you had the same feeling, the same sense, and in the past when you acted on it, it imploded. Well, this time you don't act on it, right? So very powerful skill to develop, very subtle there, but very possible, very potent, I mean. The closest is when we are dreaming and we become aware we are. This inevitably causes us to awaken. So this is Biella's example. I now use the example of the client and the therapist, and the client is doing it on company time, right? And now, depending on the relationship, but maybe the the therapist wouldn't care, and then, oh, cool, good for you, but if at least like in my case, if part of the interaction. There's this understanding that impeccability and integrity is part of it, and etc. Well, then it would be problematic, right? Because you're doing what you are saying that you're not going to do, and you're doing it anyway, right? So anyway, so she uses it though in the same way that if you're in a dream and you become aware that you're dreaming, it tends to pop the dreaming bubble, right? I mean, this is something that actually happens, right? It's when people learn to do lucid dreaming. That's the one of the biggest problems that they have to overcome, is not waking up when they become aware that they're dreaming. And I've experienced this myself, right? Um, there are, of course, other exceptions, but it takes a skilled practitioner. Boynal gave every indication of being inside his own cocoon. If I read most of you correctly, I believe you share our sense. It was best not to pierce Boynal from outside of what seemed to be a particular reality to him. Somehow he's able to reconcile it all, or so it seems. Right? Now, if you look at this from a purely humanistic point of view, like a caring for people, right? There's that reason also that Biella doesn't digress, because he's got a personal issue. If you now start to ask about visas, the conversation, even if it doesn't pop the bubble, is going to be about something technical, which goes away from the personal dilemma, right? Which he has a conflict of in terms of his motivations and agendas and stuff like that. That's the issue that needs to get resolved. The other stuff is totally irrelevant. I mean, that, yes, it's a problem, but it's a technical problem, one which discussion isn't necessarily going to help. I mean, that just some research will help him on that, right? But no matter how much he researches on the internet, he's not necessarily going to go and find help in getting his dilemma resolved, because he needs to be heard. Yeah. He needs to actually be heard. He needs to say it and then say it again and again in this case. And every time a little more comes, a little more comes, and he gets more comfortable with sharing more. This is not something that you can find happen on the internet. This is what you need a human ear for. Right. And that's another reason for not popping the bubble from a purely care, kindness, consideration point of view. Right. So a lot of reasons, but mainly this, that also it would completely have popped the bubble, most likely. Illuminier speculated. If he had not been so particularly focused on his personal problems, he might have been open to more general discussion, where we could have perhaps gleaned more information. But his discussion was also delicate, right? He was totally focused. But you know from experience, if you've dealt with people who have a particular problem and they're stuck, if you hear them and say, "Yes, I hear you," and well, you know what to do, right? Like in this case, he had the solution right from the very beginning, right? And you say, well, you know what to do. You just got to do it, and you sort of, and then you move on from there. You technically or theoretically seem to have given a solution, but not really, right? Because what they say is the problem is not actually the problem, right? So that's why capital hearing comes in. Yeah, that you must realize that people will be reluctant to share the real problem, because the real problem is usually something like there's an ethical issue involved, a dilemma of conscience, which they don't feel comfortable expressing because, well, the reality is that you sort of being a bit indulgent or whatever, right? Or you being a bit weak or fearful or something like that, right? Some awful truth that doesn't want to be dealt with. So the problem is presented in a palatable way. But then, okay, then you move a little more, a little more. So this is just understanding how psychology is, that sometimes what people say is just a beginning, and you've got to say, all right, well, we'll take that under advisement. And just from experience, I know that likely that this is the actual problem, because if it was and went as far as that, well, then it would be like duh, and you wouldn't have a problem. You wouldn't say it, right? The fact that you're saying something in a way that has the answer in it already means that this is not the real problem, right? So when you look a little deeper, and this is what capital H hearing is, it's listening past what the people say, past what they say, beyond what they say. You extrapolate, you understand there's more. You listen to what's not being said, you listen to pattern, you're listening to all sorts of stuff. That's why it's called capital H hearing. It's not just little h hearing, which is the sound falls on your ears, and it's saved. This is a very, very big deal, right? But then it seems likely he would not have communicated at all, right? If there was not more to it. A fine conundrum, rumbled Camillus. Yes, a most delicious one. Mysteries are so wonderful. A luminaire enthused. Biella and I have had the great and marvelous good fortune to live through many a splendid adventure and mystery. In cases like this, where we come to seeming dead ends, it has been our experience to just leave it alone for a while, but to keep it in mind, to maintain that I wonder all the time, right? So in other words, sometimes you're pressing, but if you're pressing, like if you're pressing against a massive giant bubble, yeah, and you got that dent in the bubble, you only see the sides of that dent. Yes, you understand what I mean? Like imagine like literally a huge bubble that's the size of your house. Yeah, like a balloon, and you're pressing on the balloon, right, to try and understand what's going on. Well, you're making a dent, and then the sides of you now, you're no longer seeing the world around you. You're just seeing the balloon only. Yeah. So when you step back a little bit and you say, wow, I still want to know what's going inside there, but let me observe it from a little bit of a distance. Now, this does two things. One, it allows you to move sideways a little bit and you get different perspectives. You say, wow, wait a second. I didn't realize that this balloon had a window in it. Oh, okay. Or the wind comes along and turns the balloon, and now you see the window because you might not be able to move, right? And, well, okay, now I can zoom in, right? So, in other words, you give the universe the chance to bring up anomalies. You give the situation time to sort of develop in its own momentum because things inevitably have their own momentum, but you keep on that interest to it. That I wonder, you keep holding on to that desire to know because this keeps you connected to it. Otherwise, you step back and it goes out of mind and it gets lost, and then no. So that energy of the I wonder, it sets an intent to keep you connected. So when something does come along, your system alerts you. Right? Oh, hey, here's something here, right? Your internal system alerts you, right? And it's very powerful mechanism. I've used this many, many, many times, right? It's a very big deal. Right? We were just discussing this earlier, weren't we, Beena? That we said, that for this, that it will come via attunement. And so, right, stay open to it, right? Set the intent, stay open. Staying connected to a mystery and staying alert is the exact same process for dealing with anomalies. They are the same. The only real difference is anomalies are for the most part extremely personal. One could call them super personal mysteries, but that seems to take out the aspect of the unbelievableness. Most anomalies happen in such a way that if we hadn't experienced them ourselves, we would not believe they happened. Why they are so difficult to talk about, right? So now we are, yes, she's looking to solve this mystery, but the anomalies that may come may be anomalies that are available to everybody, like in the case with Boynal, right? That message, they all saw it, right? It's anomalous, but it's not purely personally anomalous to Biella, right? It's an anomaly that's there for everybody, right? So, but mostly when we get an anomaly, uh, it's only coming to it because of something internal and it's connected to us personally. Somebody else may see it, but it will not mean anything to them or not even seem anomalous to them, right? So many different kinds, like everything else, a lot of variation. Um, Biella added, that unbelievableness is the magic of anomalies. Their connection to intent makes them even more incredible. Let us consider for a moment the incredibleness of Boynal's message as I have laid it out. Many amazing and unusual points to consider, but they all seem normal enough in a way at this point. They feel like there's a rational explanation somewhere we simply have not found yet. Okay? This is very important to feel like to have this feeling that there is a rational explanation, right? It's very, very cool to have that. Too technical for me. Don't worry, Norma. Just, trust that at some point it will fall into place and make sense. So just allow your brain to put it all together later. Right? Sometimes we try and understand too early. We don't have all the detail. We don't have all the info yet. Yeah. In this life, we give it to the men to solve. They all seem equally. Well, that's that's yes, it's convenient, but to me, a true gentleman does not do things on behalf of a lady, depriving them of the opportunity to develop competence. And a true lady will likewise not do the same thing for a man, right? or any gender, whatever. You don't want to just get stuck in this, right? There are, like in the ag, there are aliens out there that have multiple genders, right? And they've always had it, not. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, we have to be very careful of letting people do things for you, and then you become dependent on them, and you lose your competence. Yeah, it's a very big deal for the new nobility. They really strive to have competence as much as they are able, at least to have enough understanding to know what somebody's talking about, right? I might not know all the details, but it's like with your health, right? You might not know technically what all the things are, how the chromosomes work and all this, but I know enough to be able to hear that, share my problem, and hear when the doctor advocates, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense, right? I don't have to completely trust. Yeah, 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 grin, Norma. Yeah, big grin, yes. Cheeky, Norma, cheeky. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Beena, where are you? I haven't heard any comments from Beena. Where you, Beena? Well, you muted for one thing. I want to hear comments from you, Beena. I want to hear comments from you. Where'd you go? Oh, maybe Beena's not at the
Yes,
com.
I'm here. Yes, I'm
Oh,
here. No, no, no. I
okay.
was listening, and so that I had a call.
Oh, I
My
see.
friend Shanta. You
Oh,
know her
good.
really
How is
well.
Shanta? How is Shanta? Is she good?
She's good. She's good. She's good. And but
Okay.
it's been very long. We never get a chance to talk. So
Oh,
that's
good.
why I
Good,
just
good, good.
and then she just called me and I couldn't resist. So that's
Yeah,
why when
yeah,
you were busy, you were sharing. I was
yeah,
listening also. I was
yeah.
just using this time. So I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Okay, actually, don't, Bina, come back on Zoom,
Okay.
but I'm going to end the live. I'm going to make a short live
Okay.
today. Yeah,
Okay.
because we have
Okay.
other stuff today to do, and we're behind, so we're just gonna end it here, right? I just want to read
Okay.
one more paragraph here. As I see it,
Oh
I
yeah.
would agree. Nothing inherently magical about it. The oddities and inexplicabilities in Boynal's message, but, and this is a big but, if we consider what our theme of the day is, what we had focused our intent on earlier, our theme of anomalies, the inordinate made manifest, it would seem
Yes.
from that context we have been gifted with a great big anomaly. It may not be so in and of itself, but what are the chances that while focusing on a theme about anomalies, we get presented with such a doozy? So Biella is saying, pay attention to intent and the connectivity and the greater theme and the greater attunement, right? So the thing in
Mhm.
itself might not be anomalous, but when you put it into context with the flow of the greater things, now suddenly it's like, oh wow, right? And now it takes
Oh.
on a deeper significance. See?
Oh wow. Wow. Actually, oh
Yeah.
wow. Because you know what? I was not getting it. Sometimes things are actually not anomalous. Like I was debating about
Correct.
few things
Correct.
with
Correct.
me and in my life, and they are not really qualifying as an anomaly. But
Exactly.
they were anomalous in the context.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, okay, now makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
yeah, yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for
So that
elaborating more.
makes a huge difference. Actually, one moment.
Yeah.
Let me hang on, one moment. Just look at screen. Look at screen. Look at the picture.
Yes, I'm looking at it.
Do you see it?
No, it is just uploading still.
There we go.
Okay, now,
There we go.
yes.
It's my desktop background for the day. How cool is that? Yeah.
This is what I experienced in Islamabad. This is exactly my
Wow.
experience in Islamabad.
Wow.
Islamabad is like that.
I absolutely love this. Cape Town, where I spent a good part of
Oh,
my
oh
time
wow.
younger, was has lots of places like this. Yeah, that's quite wonderful, quite wonderful. Just love it.
Looks like
Just
all the
love it.
soldier
Yeah,
people standing
yeah,
on the reception to
yeah,
receive you.
yeah.
Wow.
So I
Great.
have. You can do this on any Windows, right? You can set the desktop background, and
Yes.
you can set it to a file on the computer. And I've set it to the file that I have that I use for the where all
Hmm.
the course pictures are in all the programs, right? For like Way-of-Impeccability. I have one huge file with all of these pictures in it. So this is from that file, and it changes every 30 minutes. I get a new background. I can also make it go and see next one, right? So it's pretty cool. Yeah, but every time I see, I'll usually got stuff on top of the background. Oh, this is just a black one. Wow. Okay. Whatever reason, and I see more. This was when I was looking for, it's in the file section where I needed to show the parkness of Nobelia, right? And like
Mm.
this is what you typically see, grass, because they'd hang out here, right? And then those trees that walk, through different places, but they'd hang
Yes.
out in places like this. That's why it's, there's the grasses here and there's benches and stuff too, but they like sitting on the grass a lot too. So,
Mhm. I must share
anyway,
some videos of
and you see, this is the
some.
stuff again that goes around, right? That we used for, and
Yes,
we put text in the middle like this, right? Yeah. So I think it's pulling it
beautiful, beautiful.
randomly. Anyway,
Yes.
it just that picture struck me, that one from the tree. I can't go backwards. I can only go forwards. But I just wanted to share that. That was very cool. That was very cool indeed.
Okay. Okay.
Brilliant, brilliant. All right, so we're gonna end here today. So bye bye
Yes, and I'll
everybody,
be back.
and bye bye Norma. Uh, doing God out of a job. Yes, 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 kind of, in a way. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Bye
That's the
now.
thing. Anyway, that's a fun topic to get into another time. Yes. Yeah. All right. So brilliant. I think Norma, Beena just said bye, Norma, as well. Did you?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I said bye, Norma. Bye, Grain. Bye, Syl.
All right.
And bye bye, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye bye, everybody. End meeting.
Till
End
tomorrow.
meeting for all. And I'll put Zoom back up again.